Hi guys, welcome back to Daniel Rosehill Plus here on YouTube. My name is Daniel Rosehill. This is a YouTube channel I set up as a sort of side venture to my main YouTube channel, which is really all stuff to do with Israel. So if our paths have crossed in the real world or in the digital world and you want to follow me on YouTube but you don't care about Israel or you have other negative thoughts towards Israel, consider following me here because these are videos not related to basically life in Israel and Israeli politics, very divisive stuff. So I'm going to do today, I wanted to do actually a book review, which is something I haven't done before, I believe, in my YouTube career. And just to say for folks who have been following me this little channel, this is probably one of the last times that I'll be doing a video in this familiar backdrop of this office because I'm currently moving apartment. So half of my worldly possessions are currently in moving boxes. So anyway, I was in the US this summer and I had the opportunity to do a bit of reading, and I really wanted to sort of get thinking about walkability, sustainable urbanization, sustainable urban planning, and sort of I've had this nagging feeling for like the past year that the level of car ownership in our societies that we just sort of expect is totally ridiculous. And I think I put into Amazon something like car free or cars, or I don't know what keywords I used exactly, but I landed on this book called Carmageddon. It's by a young writer called Daniel Knowles. We share a first name, and he is a correspondent with The Economist based out of Chicago. And I thought that this was a really good read. Now, I haven't been sort of thinking too much about car ownership or sort of, getting educated on the issues related to it, but I would say this book felt like having a beer for the first time with someone who kind of shared my unexpressed thoughts about the problems that cars create in our society. As the sort of title on the book suggests, Carmageddon, the book is unapologetically skeptical or even anti-car. And basically, Daniel talks a lot about in this book, or the author, I don't know the guy, so I feel like I probably can't address him by his first name. But the author talks a lot about some issues with the unsustainable level of car ownership we have that are not immediately evident. So I think if you're like me, coming at the issue afresh, and you can kind of understand, well, the level of environmental damage caused by our car ownership is unsustainable. Where I'm based in Israel, it's a small country, it's a very densely populated country, and the level of traffic congestion on our roads is totally insane. So it's something that seems to have gotten worse over COVID, and that I've been thinking about more and more the longer I live here, and the more I'm living without a car myself. Now, just to be clear, not that it really matters, but I own a car or have access to a car. But like the author, I've kind of always had this feeling, the more that I've lived in an urban center and relied on walking and public transport, that doesn't have to be this way. Does our entire sort of means of urban planning need to cater to the needs of cars? And this book really opened my eyes to a lot of sort of ideas, like the fact that parking spaces, now the writer being based in the US, it is kind of somewhat US centric, but he does talk about case studies and examples from other places in the world, and just some issues I wasn't aware of or that I didn't think about. It's actually kind of crazy the amount of parking space that is devoted to cars, not only where cars need to drive, but where cars need to park. And he makes some really good points, I think, about how kind of anomalous that is. I've read a couple of reviews on the book on Amazon because when I was looking at buying it, I wanted to see the pros and cons. And one of the cons, or one of the criticisms of the book, was that it was kind of light on constructive suggestions. So I would say maybe rather than just read a manifesto against mass car ownership, I would have liked to kind of learn a bit more about public transport and the role that cars might always have to play in societies. Like, one of the things I've been thinking about is, okay, we might want to ban cars from city centres and greatly curtail the amount of car ownership by radically increasing public transport. But what about stuff like emergency vehicles, right? There's going to be some need for very fast transport for certain use cases, and that kind of thinking wasn't maybe articulated or developed so much in the course of this book. But nevertheless, I actually really, really enjoyed it. I found it a very engrossing read. There have been books on the topic of adjacent subjects like urban planning that I have found sort of impenetrable. as a non-architect, non-urban planner, just kind of thinking more about sustainability related topics. And it was a great read. And in coming up in my book club, I'm going on more books about urban planning and sustainable urban planning. And I hope to do a lot more reading about public transport and ways we can reduce our dependence on cars. If you do happen to be interested in all the Israel specific stuff in that context, I'm currently working on a number of videos about stuff related to that, like public transport in Israel, cycling in Israel, cycling in Jerusalem. I'm doing research for that and shooting a bit of content as well. So that's going on. So if the Israel specific take on this is up your alley, then check out the other YouTube channel I mentioned at the start of the video. It's called Daniel Rosehill. Thanks for watching. If you have more reading recommendations for me or any reading recommendations for me to follow up on this book, feel free to drop me a comment or shoot me an email. Thanks for watching this video. And if you want to get more, subscribe to this YouTube channel.